This is going to be about the railroad strikes. The question comes from Belly Bean, and they ask, was the squad correct with their votes on the railroad strike?
They worked with the unions to like, so initially I thought it was dumb like everybody else, but then I was reading from labor reporters, not just like, random people like Jonah Furman, who is a great labor reporter. He said that the reason they voted that way is because unions worked, like, told them basically to, the idea was they wanted to put up this amendment to add sick days to the Senate, and to do that it has to pass in the House. So the idea was for them to vote for it. Now you could argue, well, then why didn't Rashida Tlaib vote with it? And I think I think in terms of strategy, she was correct not to vote with it. But apparently the other members, that's why they voted that way. It isn't to say it was a good strategy or defensive, it's just to explain why they voted that way.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Shama Sawant versus Ryan Grimm debate on this?
No.
It got pretty down to the core at it. They knew going into this, a lot of the people, like, not the you're totally right. Everything you just said is 100% correct. It's what they were asking the squad to do. But this was a DOA, and they should have recognized it as such. There was no way that this was not going to die in the Senate. And it's one of those things like, so what are the two options? A, you don't vote for it, and you hope that enough of you have a strong enough contingent to shut it down, period, because that's what you'd have to do, so it doesn't even go to the Senate. Or you do it that way, knowing full well that it'll die in the Senate, but at least you tried to add that 5-day tack on, is the other problem. But it's weird because it's one of those things, like, a union, like anything else, it is fallible. It's human. And the leaders of a union could be wanting or saying things that are not directly in the interest of all the workers, at which point it's up to the people within the union to be able to say, we have to change our management because the union heads are not in our interest. But there's a lot of people within the union who are very upset about what happened because they thought they should have just not voted for it at all. So, and from a political standpoint, it's a nightmare no matter what. If you're a progressive, if you're a squad member, it's lose-lose in both directions. It's either I do what I think is best in opposition to what the union bosses are asking for because I know it's DOA. So I say I'm not voting for this in the House, so it never makes it to the Senate. At which case, a lot of people will be mad because it's like, whoa, you went against what the union asked for. And in the other direction, they do what they did, and everyone is still like, well, what the fuck? But it just died and they got nothing. And now it's over. Like, what do we do now?
Yeah, there's no winning in this situation, honestly. But yeah, I think that there is a real difference between doing what the union bosses want and doing what the union workers want. Because union bosses aren't infallible. Like, they're good. Like, listening to them isn't necessarily bad. But in this instance, it was very clear that a majority of the workers did not want this deal. So if I were in Congress, I would have rejected it. Because, again, as you said, Lance, like, the whole thing was DOA. Like, we all knew that this was going to fail anyway. So to just cast that vote in solidarity with workers, I think that would have been a really good symbolic victory. That being said, though, I think that it's not necessarily like a cancelable offense of the squad.
No.
I think that the problem is that the squad just isn't very politically savvy, and Democratic Party leadership usually runs roughshod over them. And that's really the core issue. They need to get more savvy and strategic. But again, like, it was lose all around because it was going to die. It's just a shitty situation. And since we're talking about this, I just want to add that Biden does have the authority to sign an executive order where he guarantees sick leave by simply saying, we're not going to contract with any company that doesn't offer at least 7 paid sick days. Obama did this before. Biden can do that. And then, I mean, these rail companies, they have federal contracts. That's how you effectively do it, like that. But he's not doing it. And the real test comes from the pressure. Like, can we exert enough pressure? Can the squad exert enough pressure on Biden to get him to do that? And that is where I think that anyone who's disappointed, that's where you kind of encourage them to move pressure towards Biden. I know that there's a lot of labor activity that is moving towards that currently, but that really is where the pressure needs to be, because that's how you accomplish this now. Yes, he failed the workers. The squad, it's a little bit ambiguous as to whether or not what they did was correct. I wouldn't have voted in the way that they did, but if they can get Biden to sign that executive order, it's a win overall. It doesn't matter.
Yep, I agree. I think there's a weird section of the internet that's obsessed with the fact that, like, AOC hasn't unlocked communism yet. Like, it's just this weird running theme, you know? Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? Come on.
Like, it's fine to criticize, strategy and that kind of thing, but you have to understand, like, people have to understand how Congress works. They don't have the numbers. Like, yes, I think there's fair criticisms around, like, how they should be using their platforms, their power, who they should be speaking, power or truth to, and maybe openly criticizing leadership a little more and that kind of thing. But there's limitations on what they can accomplish, right? And people, and a lot of it I think is manufactured because there's obviously a lot of incentive to try and capture a right-wing audience by attacking
Using
the
clicks.
left and pretend you're on the left. Like, it's so fucking stupid.
AOC did
but
this
that's
again. She failed again. It's just we know who.
Didn't
Bro.
force the vote.
Oh God. Oh God. Yeah, that's facts.